Alright, what's going on, y'all? We're back, and my apologies for not having been around the last X number of days or whatever it's been, but like I said, things have been busy. It may affect the way things happen here, and of course, the lack of production is certainly shown, but we're certainly not going to let that be too much of a thing, and I anticipate there's definitely going to be more to come from me, especially with the coming days, and what better way to get started on things than to talk about something that's been brought up, at least within recent hours. I'm not sure if this is something that's been talked about in recent days, but it seems that Bobby Lashley to AEW could very well be a thing. I'm not real sure necessarily how true this is, but based on a lot of information that I've been getting, I would probably say this is more likely than not to be the case. And it won't be just Bobby Lashley, but we'll get into that in just a moment. Now, this is interesting. His contract does end in about a month. There is a possibility that he could re-sign with WWE, but again, just based on the way I'm reading the supposed tea leaves, at least what's been presented so far, it doesn't seem as though he's re-signing. They've been bringing in an awful lot of talent. I've got another video coming up here, and I want to say probably by the end of the day, maybe even tomorrow, that is going to talk a little bit more about some free agents going to WWE, and all of which in the women's division. But that's going to be for another day in time, or for another video in time, we'll just say. Could be tonight, but it's just really, really interesting. This is going to be a similar situation to Edge, parting of ways due to creative differences. He hasn't really been all that much of a focal point. The last thing that he was being used for, or was said to be used for, was, I guess, enhancement talent of sorts for Carmelo Hayes, which I'm fine with that, I guess, but I was thinking more in the sense of him doing for Carmelo what MVP was doing for him and so forth, like possibly a new Hurt Business. But speaking of Hurt Business, that could also be going to AEW as well. And with that, that's a perfect segue, as we're going to go ahead and talk about MVP. Of course, as you can see, he's obviously, over years, and even before both went back to WWE, there's a lot of history that goes back with them in TNA. And I wouldn't be shocked to see this transitioned over into AEW, and again, we could be getting Hurt Business in AEW. And for me, this is really, really interesting because, similar to Lashley, MVP's talked about creative. I mean, he was actually involved in a lot of storylines with Omos, or at least being the Paul Heyman to Omos, being that imposing over 7 foot, 350 plus pound giant that is seemingly unstoppable. But I'm just trying to think about it. I don't think they've really done anything with Omos since last year's WrestleMania in LA, where he ended up losing narrowly to Brock Lesnar, where for whatever reason afterwards Brock Lesnar was kind of running for his life, which is interesting in and of itself. But just speaking on MVP specifically, and I take that back, he actually was in this year's Royal Rumble. Wasn't in it for very long, but of course had a standoff with Braun Breaker, which was actually pretty cool. But again, not much you've seen from either of them since. Now, there's not really much known about Omos, but as far as MVP is concerned, he actually has interest in wrestling still. And it turns out, apparently, he's been looking into some stem cell treatments just so that he'd be able to continue wrestling, as he does plan on retiring, but not too soon, apparently. But I don't know. I mean, either way, it's just interesting. Much like Lashley, also, his contract's ending over the next month or so. So, yeah, stars are just aligning here, just so magically. It's just funny even thinking about it, but I mean, it's just crazy because this really does seem to be the direction that we're going. AEW could be having their own Hurt business. They're likely bringing in Dijak along with Ricochet. There's still the matter of Shane McMahon, which has surprisingly died down significantly since it was brought up. So no real way of knowing whether or not that's going to be a thing or not, but I think we can certainly look forward to this being a thing in AEW. But even with that in mind, someone who is also expected to be in AEW is our man Ricochet here. Now, here's where it gets really interesting for me, because a lot of people have said this, and I've had conversations, particularly with my best friend. I don't know too many people aside from myself that aren't down on this idea, for one reason or another. Now, say what you will about that. I don't have as much of a problem with it as a lot of other people do. And I'm not sure why that is necessarily. But one thing that I will say, however, is at the end of the day, I feel like maybe, again, the stars might actually just be aligning perfectly. Shelton Benjamin, by the way, is no longer with WWE as we speak. I think that departure took place, let's say, a month or two ago. I'm not 100% sure, but either way, he's been gone for a bit. I know he's been taking bookings elsewhere. I don't see any reason for him and Ricochet to be those completing pieces to the Hurt faction in AEW. Like, there's becoming less and less reason for me to believe that that can't be the case. And I'm going to actually throw in one little nugget that might surprise a lot of folks. Don't be shocked if, in addition to not only Lashley, not only MVP, not only Shelton Benjamin, but also Ricochet, why not throw in Stat and Stokes? I mean, Stokely, decently familiar with the Hurt business of sorts. I mean, didn't really work with them, but was in WWE when they were actually still doing their thing to some degree, and I think there could be some cohesion. And with the path that Chris Statlander is on, I don't see this going any other way. Now, the only other thing that would prove me wrong would be perhaps the addition of, say the infantry with, I'm trying to think of the man's name, Carly Bravo, Captain Sean Dean, and Trisha Dora. I could see them as a part of the Hurt business. But in terms of storyline and what's been going on, especially in AEW within that structure, Stokely and Chris Statlander would make a lot of sense for that as well, regardless of all the reasons that you want to believe. But nonetheless, let me know what you guys think on that. I mean, we might be getting the Hurt business in AEW. I hate this. No, I don't. Why? How did that start to come? No, I love the idea of this. I mean, I guess what I hate about it is that there was just so much potential for it with WWE, but I guess it wasn't meant to be. No bars intended, but yeah, let me know what y'all think on this. And yeah, I mean, keep your eyes on this situation over the next month or so. Either way, y'all know what it is. Like, share, subscribe if y'all enjoyed, and if y'all are new, and I am A&J, there will be more. I don't know why I did that twice, but hey.